to listen to the Lapped Traffic Podcast.
What is up, Lap Traffic Nation? Welcome to episode 199 of the Lap Traffic Podcast. I am your host, the Professor Brandon Crowd, just 1 week away from episode 200. In the wrestling world, this is the go-home show. This is the create the build. Create everyone's attention to make them have to tune in next week. If this is the first time you are listening to the Lap Traffic Podcast, my goal is to make sure that you definitely tune in next week, because next week is going to be huge. I could sell tickets. I could sell YouTube views. No, I'm just kidding. I'm not going to go that far, but I am so excited for next week's show. It's going to be awesome, but we got 199 tonight, and tonight is not going to disappoint either. I will promise you that. But before I get to tonight, I hope you all had a fantastic Labor Day weekend. Hope you were able to kick back with some family, some friends, enjoy some barbecue, some drinks, some racing, all that good stuff. The wife and I, we actually took a long Labor Day weekend. We took Wednesday through Friday off, and then obviously had Monday off for 6 full days. It's our first 6 days off this year. We headed up to Mackinac Island for a few days. And if you're not from the Midwest, you probably may not be familiar with Mackinac Island. But we stayed with some friends in the city Wednesday night and then spent 2 days on the island. And like I said, for those of you unfamiliar with Mackinac Island, the island is about an 8-mile ferry ride from the tip of the mitten of the Lower Peninsula over to the island. Ferries run morning until about 8 o'clock or so, until the last ferry leaves. And anyone left on the island is either a local or staying on the island as a tourist. And the island itself is about 8 miles around. The tourist part, though, is only about a half-mile long. There are no motorized vehicles on the island. You either walk, bike, or horse around. It's very old school. That's part of the charm. We had a couple great days there. We golfed, did some shopping, eating, drinking, all that good stuff. Great few days to just unwind. And then Saturday, took the 4.5-hour drive back home to Metro Detroit. Sunday evening, unpacked and enjoyed the Cup race, and Monday just kicked back for sure. And here we are, episode 199, on the brinks of episode 200 next week, which, if you haven't figured it out, there is a lot planned for next week. I hope it all goes smoothly. Be on the lookout, I'm telling you right now, for some awesome giveaways. A few that are sponsored by Hunt Brothers Pizza. Lap Traffic Intern Dan Ryan will go into that when he comes on here in just a little bit. Plus, aside from those 3 main giveaways, I'm just going to be doing some random giveaways. I might just randomly pick somebody and say, hey, here's a Lap Traffic t-shirt in celebration of 200 episodes. I might do a couple other contests as well. So make sure you are following Lap Traffic on Twitter and Instagram at Lap Traffic PC. And like I said, I'll have more on that later in the show. If you missed last week's show with Tyler Reddick, it was Tyler Reddick. Go back and check that out. That's for sure. But tonight, I'm so excited. Making his long-awaited return, Jeff Gluck is back on the Lap Traffic Podcast tonight. I'm excited about that. Lap Traffic Intern Dan is going to be on to talk about his trip to Darlington, so we're going to talk that during the race segment there. Got the social media shout-outs. Aaron Studwell is going to be on for the weather, Lucky Dog, Lap Down, and, of course, Fantasy to close it out. So let's get episode 199 going with the legendary Jeff Gluck. All right, Lap Traffic Nation, joining me on the line, making his 3rd appearance on the Lap Traffic Podcast. He's been covering NASCAR since 2007. He's been with USA Today, JeffGluck.com. He's now with The Athletic. And aside from his coverage of the sport and writing in the sport, I think he might be best known for his good race polls. Welcome back to the Lap Traffic Podcast, Jeff Gluck. Jeff, what's going on, man? Happy Labor Day.
Hey, yeah, thanks to you. Thanks, same to you, I guess. I don't know why I said thanks to you. Thanks to you and same to you, first of all. Now, I was thinking about how you're one of the few media members I've seen in person over the last few months, or really few humans, I guess, in general. So, yeah, I mean, I saw you at Michigan, and it's probably the only NASCAR race I'll get to go to for the foreseeable future. I'm hoping to go to Phoenix, but, I don't know if that's going to happen. So at least I saw you in Michigan. At least it was a double header, you know, so that was good.
I was going to ask you about that. So, and you kind of made that happen. You were in town or in Indiana visiting family or something like that, right? Which is why you were able to make that work.
Yeah, I gotta thank my sister-in-law because she was supposed to have a real wedding, of course, like so many people during COVID.
Yeah.
She ended up having to get married in my in-laws' backyard. So she obviously wanted her immediate family there. So we went out there. And since I was there, you know, I could tell my bosses at The Athletic, hey, you know, you don't have to worry about me getting on a plane. I drove out there. Why don't I cover the Michigan race just a few hours away? And then I could, you know, maybe stay for Indy 500. What do you think?
Right.
And, you know, they kind of viewed it as, well, you know, you're already there, so sure, go ahead.
Awesome.
But you know, now I'm back in Denver, and as we know, there's not really too many NASCAR races around here. Yeah, so I think Kansas is technically my home track right now, and that's about 8.5 hours away. So
that's crazy. So you mentioned, like I was going to ask you if you had planned on being able to try to get to any more. So I want to go to Phoenix, you know, more for the podcast, but also personal reasons, just because everyone that listens knows I'm a diehard Harvick fan. And, you know, from a media side of things, I get where that would definitely be a struggle for me being a smaller media entity, if you will. But, man, I might try to go as a fan and just have some fun.
Yeah, no, I don't blame you. I mean, especially that time of year in Phoenix is quite pleasant. You know, the weather's still warm, but it's not super hot there. And, you know, we'll all be trying to get out of the snow, I'm sure, around those times anyway. But,
absolutely.
You know, I think it's going to be interesting. I don't know how they're going to do it just because, you know, I think from a media standpoint, as we experienced at Michigan, you know, it's tough to be there. And, you know, every time I've seen you at Michigan, you know, you're in the media center and you have a setup going, and, you know, you can bring people into your room there and do these live in-person interviews. And, you know, when we're up in the press box and, you know, we're just doing the same Zoom interview stuff that we would do at home.
Sure.
It's hard. I mean, it's hard to find sort of like the value of being there and try to do something different. You know, you're trying to inform fans and inform your listeners and readers and stuff what's going on, and it's tough because how much really, you know, different unique stuff can you tell them if you're not really being able to talk to people in person and all that stuff. You're just sitting up high, you know, sort of that bird's eye view. I mean, it was nice to be there. It's just that I don't know how much I can really provide, you know, of value. So that's the tough part.
Right. No, I'm with you there. You know, that was, you know, especially for me, because it's not my week to week gig, right? You know, if I'm at the track, I try to make that as a unique experience as possible. Like you mentioned, you know, doing the shows with guests in there and all that kind of stuff, bringing the listeners something different than what they get from a week to week perspective for me. And like you just said, you know, what more, you know, it's kind of the same thing. You know, it's a Zoom interview, and, you know, you take a couple highlights from that and put it in an audio piece or a written piece, and, you know, there's no fresh perspective because you're not, you know, down there, you know, you're not in the garage. You're not walking around talking to a crew chief or, you know, an engineer as they're working on the car. You know, there's definitely that live aspect missing from it.
Yeah, and I think that really, that's really where, you know, so much of the insight comes from, you know, on that part of the job where, you know, when people have questions, you know, on Twitter or something like that, and you immediately know the answer because, oh, well, this guy just told you that, you know, a couple hours ago in the garage or something, you know, or you had a conversation with someone last week at the track and, you know, you were just chatting and this came up and they said this and you're like, oh, that was interesting. I didn't realize that. You know, the Zoom interviews are, you know, what they have to go with now for as far as a substitute, but it just doesn't replace the real thing. I like so many of what's going on with COVID right now, you know, just people are trying to find substitutes for everything, but
sure.
The in-person interaction, I mean, I guess I didn't even realize to what extent how valuable it really was. But, you know, not just for my job, but personal relationships. I mean, I feel like it's even harder to keep up with friends and stuff now in a way because, you can only text people for so long. And if you go such a long time without seeing people, it's just kind of weird,
Yeah. It falls into like that, well, I haven't seen so-and-so. All right, well, I don't need to, it's been this long and everything's been fine, So, yeah, it's definitely been a weird adapting period over these last, what is it now, 7-8 months.
Yeah, seems like 7 or 8 years. But
it's crazy. It's crazy. Jeff, man, first, I got to say, it's been way too long since you've last been on. You were last on episode 103. Tonight is episode 199. But, man, couldn't have been happier that we were able to work this out. I promise it will not be that long in between shows again.
Well, I mean, I'm just going to prefer to believe that you were just saving me for episode 199 to set up episode 200. And that's why you're just like, I don't want to. Episode, 163, no,
right.
184, no, I got to save them for 199. So that's what I'm telling myself.
I love it. I absolutely love that, man. Jeff, anyone that follows and listens to me, I got to almost bank on the fact that they follow you and know where to find your content. But on the off chance they don't, give everyone a quick update on what you've been doing with the move from jeffgluck.com over to The Athletic and all that good stuff.
Yeah, last time we talked, I was, doing the self-funded, well, it was reader-funded, I guess, sure. But independent site and, paying my own way to the track out of that and paying my salary out of that and everything. And, it was tough because I think I was going to keep going with that for a while. It was starting to slide a little bit where, you could see there was, it wasn't going down sharply, but you could see there was more people sort of like stopping their pledges than adding. Sure. I think the first year of it was a lot of enthusiasm and people were like, yeah, but you can only give somebody maybe $5 a month or something for so long. And, especially, you see it too with people's interest in NASCAR at times would go up or down. Sure. And I think when I could see it, like when NASCAR would do something that would make people mad or, someone retires or whatever, and people would say like, hey, I just don't, nothing against you, but I'm not going to follow it anymore. So I'm not going to pay someone, $5-10 a month, when I'm not going to be using the service or reading about it, So I think I still could have, maybe lasted another year or something and just see how it went. But, The Athletic called me, in May of 2019 and they're like, hey, we're going to start up motorsports coverage. And my response was, well, let me give you some names of people because I'm happy with what I'm doing. But the more I thought about it, there's a lot to be said for having health insurance and benefits. And,
absolutely.
We wanted to move to Colorado to be nearer to my parents to have help with our little toddler. And, that would free up my wife to get a different job and all that stuff. It just kind of kept pointing that direction of like, for family reasons, it would
life
be
stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. And then now that I think about it, I'm like really glad that I moved to The Athletic because if I was relying on, listener and reader pledges during a pandemic,
yep.
That would be a lot stickier situation, I think, because, with all the jobs that have been lost and all that stuff and people trying to watch what they spend, I mean, I'm sure that I would have been one of the first things that got cut and understandably so.
Right.
So that, there's no middleman in when you're doing a project like that, right? It's going directly to you, which is good at times. And then when the times aren't so good, it's like, wow, how am I going to do this? So I think the timing kind of worked out with making that move and we've been able to be in Colorado now. And so that was a long way of explaining that, but
it's all good.
Yeah. Yeah.
And things are good with The Athletic and all that kind of stuff. We still get your polls. We still get the 12 questions and all that good stuff.
I feel like, initially I was like, I wonder if we're going to get sort of lost in the mix there because The Athletic has so many different sports. But, even this summer, we've gotten really direct feedback from the highest of higher ups at The Athletic who are paying attention to what we're writing about and what's going on. And that kind of makes you feel good and makes you feel valued that, it's just myself and Jordan Bianchi and we have an editor, but, so we're just trying to do as much as we can with, small staff. It's not like we have, a few dozen people or something like football. But
Sure.
So it's been good. We're trying to do as much as we can, and especially in these circumstances too. That I was whining about earlier about the Zoom stuff. I mean, it's definitely harder, and it's harder for me to get people on the phone for 12 questions and stuff and things like that. But we're doing the best we can, and I think they're happy with it. So hopefully we'll just be able to keep going.
Excellent. No, I love it. All right, let's little transition. I want to get your take on some generalized topics on such a unique 2020 racing season that we have. And I want to start with this. Is there any driver in any of the 3 series or all 3 series that maybe you're surprised by their lack of performance, basically now either into the playoffs or wrapping up the regular season in either the Xfinity or Truck Series?
You mean so only Xfinity or Truck?
Or anything, like for me, for example, I am absolutely stunned with the year Johnny Sauter's having. Like, I cannot believe that he's basically going to miss the Truck playoffs, a veteran like Johnny Sauter. I'm absolutely stunned by that. I'm stunned Ross Chastain doesn't have any wins in the Xfinity series. Something like, is there anything, any driver, anything like that where you're just surprised where they're at right now in 2020?
Yeah, let me give you one for each because 3 popped into mind from one from each series.
Wow.
So I agree with your Sauter, first of all, but I think that, almost even a bigger surprise for me. I mean, Sauter for sure, but Stuart Friesen.
Sure. Yep.
Last year, it just seemed like he was, getting better and better and better. And then in the off season, they partner with Toyota and it seems like they're going to get an upgrade in equipment. If I'm not mistaken, that's what everybody's belief was, that they were going to have a strong alliance. And I mean, he's not even close to what he was running before. I mean, just completely out to lunch. They're not even in the conversation. I mean, at least, with Johnny Sauter, he's out of the playoffs too, but people are like, well, Johnny Sauter's going to have to go win this weekend. But people aren't even saying that about Stuart Friesen because he hasn't even been close to running up front. So that's been a really weird one. The other one that came to mind in Xfinity, I agree with you on the Chastain part of it. I thought that, here's Chastain. He's finally getting, a pretty decent full-time ride. And no offense, but this is like one of the weaker Xfinity Series fields of regulars that we've seen in a while. I mean,
Sure.
You have a lot of newcomers. The big 3 had moved on, plus John Hunter Nemechek had moved on. And, so you really just had, kind of Chase Briscoe, you had the junior motorsports drivers, and you would think that Ross Chastain would be able to collect some wins, and it just hasn't happened. So that's been a real big one. And then obviously for Cup, I mean, it's hard to pick anybody but Kyle Busch. I mean, you could say now going through the summer, well, yeah, he's not competitive, but I mean, coming into the season, I mean, JGR had won 19 of the races last year.
Right.
It was the exact same rules package. There's no reason to believe they're going to fall off. Kyle was coming off a championship, and yeah, he hadn't won from June until Homestead, but he still ran decent. It wasn't like he was awful.
Sure.
He obviously still made the Final Four and ends up winning at Homestead. So it's mind-boggling to think that all those circumstances could add up to possibly make this the first winless season of his career. Really strange, but here we are with 9 races to go, and he still doesn't have a win.
I am so with you. And on the same time, I think they announced it during the broadcast yesterday, and they asked him or talked to him about this during pre-race, that all of the drivers almost unanimously said, who's the one driver you don't want to get hot, and it's Kyle Busch. And I still believe that he could go on a 4-race win streak, even though we're down to 9 races to go in the season. I think I made the analogy a couple weeks ago about a hitter's slump in baseball. Sometimes it looks like a beach ball, and they're 27 for 30 at the plate, and then other times they're 3 for 30 at the plate. And it's just a matter of what clicks at what point in time to get you back up on the uptick there. And I still think it could happen at any point in time for Kyle Busch.
Yeah, I just think that at this point in the year, if it hasn't happened, and the fact that there's not going to be any practice, going forward,
Yep.
they just don't have time to work on it. And I keep these comments from June keep echoing in my head of David Wilson, the head of TRD, had said, the thing about Kyle is that he's sort of like the second crew chief on the team, and his feedback is next level, and he knows exactly what he wants the car to do and how to change the car and to get those adjustments made for him during the course of a weekend, and it makes sense because I don't know how many times Kyle Busch would roll off the truck and be immediately fastest, but by the end of the weekend, they would use practice sessions and they would get there. But without practice now, they really haven't had a chance to work on it. And by the time he knows, what they could do differently, you can't change it during the race, and the race is over and they're moving on. And so many of the tracks this year, for instance, you'll have like a Michigan or a Dover, but they're on the same weekend, or a Pocono. So you don't have time to go back to the shop and say, okay, listen, when we come back here in a few weeks, let's do this.
Sure.
It's that immediate turnaround. And I guess they just can't get it right in time necessarily. It's been a real weird season without a lot of flow. I mean, you go to Daytona Road Course, you do all this weird stuff. And, now even this week coming up, Richmond, well, this would usually, be the second Richmond race. And now it's going to be the only Richmond race. So it's just tough, I think, to, if you don't have quite the handle, and we know that if you're only missing it by 3 to 5% in NASCAR, I mean, you could be way off.
Sure.
I mean, the field is so close.
Yeah,
so I just think that all contributes to it for him.
I love it. That's a great way to look at that. I tell you, you kind of mentioned the weirdness of this year so far. NASCAR's sort of been given that golden ticket to make changes on the fly to get this season in, to get the season to work. We've seen a ton of changes, whether it's from schedule changes to rules changes. What changes that NASCAR's made on the fly have gotten you excited? What haven't you liked? For me, I absolutely love the choose rule. I think that's great. What's Jeff Gluck liked and not liked with some of the changes NASCAR's implemented this year?
Yeah, I think the choose rule is my favorite so far for sure. And now you have this great graphic too that NBC rolled out. I love that, it immediately like pops up with their faces and tells you how many positions they won or gained or lost based on their decision.
Yep.
That was really cool. And I think that, it's just so much fairer, right? I mean, the drivers before would always just be like, oh, I got stuck on the bottom and that wasn't where I wanted to be. And I lost all those spots and, it stinks. And now it's like, okay, well, you could either, try to gain some ground and take your chances on the bottom, or you could take the top and maybe lose a couple spots, but it'll even out after the restart. And it's been easy. It's been seamless. Nobody's trying to cheat the system, going back and forth or something. I just think it's worked so well. And it was crazy because, even before they announced it for the All-Star race, I'd been asking people about this because I was writing a column about how they should try the choose rule. And, like the drivers were saying, hey, we've been asking for it for years, but then they kept going, well, but I don't really know if this is the year to do it necessarily because NASCAR is trying so much right now and they have so much on their plate. But to NASCAR's credit, like you said, I mean, they're trying so much stuff and they decided this is the year to do it. And I love it. I mean, it's been the year of change. I mean, if you go back probably 10 years of everything that people have been writing or wishing for, could this happen? It's like everything over the course of time has finally changed this year, whether it's trying midweek races or shorter races or double headers or, inverted lineups for some of the races, stuff like that. It's just been cool to see. And now you're able to see what works and what doesn't.
Absolutely. You couldn't have said that any better. 10 years of complaining. We've gotten it all basically in 1 year. In some form of another, NASCAR has done everything that everyone's complained about on Twitter. Whether, like you said, the restarts, the choose rule, shorter races, doubles, schedule changes, let's not have the same cookie cutter schedule so that everyone knows what notebook to bring and all that kind of stuff. You name it, we've gotten that. And I'm with you. I think it's made for an exciting and jam-packed too. Like the amount of races we've squeezed in since May. If you've wanted to get your fill of racing in, you've definitely been able to do that. That's for sure.
Yeah. And I think when NASCAR first started, to me, back up in May, there was, you look back now and say, well, yeah, of course it worked and it was fine. But, at the time they started, there was still so much uncertainty, and they were really out on a limb as the first big sport to try to come back regularly and all that stuff. And I remember, talking about it on my podcast with Jordan Bianchi about how, like, there's two ways this could go. It could either be successful and it kind of saves the sport and prevents all the teams from going out of business, and everybody's like, wow, look at the NASCAR model. Or, this could be a total disaster where, there's an outbreak at the track as a result of it. They have to shut down right away again. And, everybody goes, like the national mainstream type media and stuff. They go, oh, look at those rednecks from NASCAR. They try to do this. How dumb.
Right.
Everything. And it could have been egg on their face. And honestly, over the course of time, having covered NASCAR, I was leaning toward the latter, because I was like, NASCAR has screwed up a lot more stuff in some ways than they've gotten right. There's always some unintended consequences and all that stuff. But, I mean, they've really pulled it off. I do wish that, they would test. I think that could open up stuff, whether it's sponsors coming back, because, you've heard stuff about sponsors saying they want money back from some of the teams because they can't come to the track. They can't do garage passes. They can't sit on the pit box.
Yep.
I'm sure media would like to be there. If NASCAR did testing, I mean, the NFL is reporting their testing numbers and they're doing thousands and thousands and thousands of tests. I can understand the time in May when NASCAR started up, there wasn't testing available.
Sure.
So, they would have been taking tests away from doctors and nurses and stuff like that. But it's much more widespread now. I mean, you see all the other sports league testing.
Yep.
So I do wish that would happen. But aside from that, you have to give credit to NASCAR for being able to, I mean, honestly, I think they saved, maybe half the teams or maybe the whole sport from completely going out of business by getting those races in. So it's amazing.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a great call there. Jeff, have you heard anything that you could maybe tease or anything like that in terms of next year, in terms of practices qualifying, the number of doubles we might see? Have you heard any rumblings as to what things that NASCAR has had to do this year that might stick around for next year?
Yeah, we had this little group session with Steve Phelps last week, and it was interesting. He often doesn't. He says a lot, I guess, without saying a ton.
Sure.
But so you sort of try to read in between the lines. To me, it sounds like there's still so much uncertainty in a way of what next year is even going to look like that it's hard for them to say definitively, okay, this is what we want to do. I mean, for instance, I had never even considered this before, which maybe I should have. But, throughout our entire time following NASCAR, the schedule is always released in one big chunk. It's like, here's the schedule for next year, And like I said, I had never considered that they could not do that. But Steve Phelps brought up, hey, there's a possibility we could, release it a little bit at a time, just like they've been doing for the, as
Sure.
they filled in this schedule to catch up on the races. So, I mean, I think you could actually see NASCAR say, okay, look, we're going to start out. We're going to go here. Here's the first 6 races, and we'll get back to you after that.
Yeah, it's almost like creating a build or an excitement level of the fan. Almost like when the NFL does their schedule day, and they release that. It's I guess creating maybe some media hype around the sport, the schedule, and the uncertainty of, are we going to get a race here or are we not?
Yeah, no, I mean, that could definitely be a side effect of it. And how weird would it be to actually start the season and not even know what races are in the playoffs or when the playoffs would start and stuff like that. I mean, that would obviously be unprecedented, but at the same time, I mean, you look at it, right? And we're now in September. The Daytona 500 is in February, and that's not that long away. I mean,
right.
we're talking 5-ish months away. So, I am getting to the point where I doubt that some miracle is going to come along and COVID is suddenly going to be gone by Daytona 500 time. So if NASCAR is to roll into next year and it looks a lot like this year, as far as, you could have fans at certain tracks, but not others, limited scaled down attendance of people who, are essential to be there, stuff like that. But then you don't know what the end of, a year from now, maybe it's different. So I can understand why NASCAR can't really come out and say, all right, here's what we're going to do all of next year when there's still so much uncertainty. But long way of answering your question. To get back to what you're saying, I do think that you'll see a lot more of the single day shows for next year. I think that the teams have realized, look, I mean, we don't need to have 3 days of 3-day weekends. Now, some of the tracks will really, really want them, so that's fine if it's just some a fan based decision where the tracks say we really need to have campers, we really need to sell these 3-day tickets, so let's do 2 days of practice and a day of qualifying and the race. But other than that, I think NASCAR is going to try to come back and do a lot of single day shows. It's been proven it's fine. The racing's good. It certainly hasn't hurt it at all.
No.
I think it's helped it. So I think you'll probably see the majority of weekends next year still be single day shows, which will be obviously different than we've experienced going into a season.
Sure. No, I'm excited about that. Jeff, this past weekend at Darlington, it was kind of unique in that all 3 races, the winner kind of inherited the lead, if you will. The truck race, Ben Rhodes stayed out, which gave him the lead, which let him get the win. The Xfinity Series, we saw, Chastain and Denny Hamlin getting into it, which allowed the third-place winner to get that there. And the same thing in the Cup Series last night with Chase and Martin Truex Jr., letting Kevin Harvick just kind of slide up in there for another one. That's kind of unique. I don't recall 3 races same weekend where that's happened. Did that hurt the racing at all? Did you think it added to it? What's your take on the overall weekend at Darlington?
I mean, I think it adds to it. I think Darlington proved again how exciting it was in the sense that it's hard. I think it's a hard track. A lot of these tracks now, I don't know that they really challenge these guys the way that the technology is now, the way sim racing is now and the manufacturer simulators, they have a pretty good feel for it. But Darlington is so tough. I mean, the way that you have to race it, it's such a unique place. It's narrow. I mean, not all the corners are the same. And, I just think it's hard. And so when it's a really hard track and you're pushing it at the end of these races, you might make a mistake. And, Truex, his move, I do question. Hamlin and Chastain, they had a great, fantastic battle, for like 10 laps, and they're going at it. And, they're coming to the white flag, and it's sort of getting like desperate time. Like, all right, we got to do something here. We maybe have to push it a little bit more, to get the win.
Sure.
But Truex, I mean, he was chasing Chase Elliott down. I think there's still 15 laps to go. It's round 1 of a playoff race 1. And, this round is really about, I think, just not hurting yourself.
Right. Yes. Yeah.
It's about, in all likelihood, if you reel off just probably 3 straight top 12 finishes, regardless of stage points, I mean, you're almost it'd be pretty hard to miss it.
Yeah. Yep.
And certainly 3 top 10s would get you to the next round because people are going to mess up or fall out, or they're just not going to have good runs, or things are going to happen. Like we saw with Blaney or DiBenedetto, or whatever. People are just going to take themselves out. So, if you're Truex and the whole storyline has been, he doesn't have a ton of playoff points going in, a medium amount. I mean, by going from second, even if he's going to be second place there and doesn't get the win, if he's going to go from second to 22nd, that's 20 points right there. And I believe now he's only up on the cutoff line by 16 points. So the difference between 36 points and 16 points is pretty significant. Now, it might not hurt him. Maybe it will. But I think that, he could have probably been a little bit more patient there. He still may have had a chance to pass him or may have passed him. But maybe you wait until there's 5 laps to go or something, 2 laps to go. And if you've blown that, if it turned out that you didn't have that opportunity, well, you go, okay, well, I tried and I still got second place, good points day, and I survive. But to make that move and then, now you've possibly gained a rival or something who's going to race you harder. You've cost yourself 20 points. I don't know. I just don't know if it was the right thing to do there. But I know you want to see people go for the win, but I think also going for the win at the right time has to be in there too.
I think you nailed it there, Jeff, in terms of comparing the two different finishes there for the listeners out there. In terms of the Xfinity race, it was lap by lap battle. Cup race was a little bit of a different story. Truex just kind of closed the gap, was there, didn't race, didn't follow, didn't try to force Elliott to change his line or anything like that. He just kind of went for it right when he got there and caused some chaos there. So I think that's a great way that you described that there in showing the difference between two of the same outcomes, but two different builds to get to how those things happen there for sure. I want to talk about Austin Dillon for a minute. I think if there had been one more lap to that race, we might be talking about Austin Dillon locking himself into the round of 12, because I think he was there and might have been able to catch Harvick. Little loose off of 4, but he was definitely gaining ground. Rookie Tyler Reddick, great year, just missed the playoffs. Austin Dillon with a win, second place finish here. In the first race of the playoffs. He takes a lot of heat on social media, I know that, but in your objective opinion, is RCR trending finally in an upward position here, or are these glimpses of brilliance just some outliers for RCR?
I think overall, they've definitely improved as an organization, but when I see him finish second, I'm not going to start jumping too far ahead of myself, I guess, just because, look, he would have had a top 5 even if Elliott and Truex hadn't wrecked. But, I just think I still want to see more from that team before I get too excited about it. I think he's only had 5 top 3 finishes in his career now, 3 of them being wins. One was last night and one was his rookie year at Talladega. They don't do this very often. I mean, it was great timing and against a stout field in a huge race. And, it would have been his 3rd crown jewel race, which would have been unbelievable. I mean, he's already won the Coke 600 and Daytona 500.
Yep.
That would have been something. I mean, some drivers are still, who've been around a while are still looking for their first crown jewel, and let alone 2, let alone 3. So that would have been really remarkable if he had been able to win his 3rd already. But, I don't know. Part of me thinks, okay, look, if he's able to go to the 2 short tracks, which obviously are evened out more in terms of parity, and he can survive there and make it to the round of 12. I mean, that's a pretty big accomplishment for that team. Cause I'm sure among many people who I just thought these guys are, they're going to be easy first round exit.
Sure.
I figured Austin Dillon, Cole Custer, those are like the obvious 2 that you would say are going to go out early. I mean, he finished the regular season 18th in points, and it's just, you just don't think of that as a threat. So yeah, to come out and go P2 at Darlington, it's definitely impressive. I guess I'm a little bit cautious about what it really means.
Absolutely. No, I'm with you there 100%. Kevin Harvick, 44 years old, 57 wins, 9th on the all-time win list, picks up win number 8 on the season, something he did 2 years ago as well, back in 2018. Can he keep this up? Is this just like, I don't even know how to describe something that I think we're witnessing in NASCAR history here with Kevin Harvick in terms of age, peaking maybe on the downward trend in terms of the amount of years he's got left versus the upward trend like we see so often here. What's the deal with Kevin Harvick doing this type of performance late in his career?
Yeah, it's definitely been, something that I wouldn't have necessarily expected, just based on, we know that drivers peak at age 39, thanks to David Smith's analytics. And, like you said, he's mid 40s now. And that's a lot of times when you see these guys really start to drop off. I mean, whether it's Jimmy Johnson, Jeff Gordon, Tony Stewart, Dale Jr., once guys get in their mid 40s, I don't know if it's, the hand-eye coordination that goes, or your eyesight or something, or just motivation. I don't know. But Harvick's obviously, he and Rodney Childers work so well together. To think their average finish is one of the best that we've seen, over the last 2 decades is really remarkable, especially in a year, in a playoff system where you don't need, a great average finish. It's not like the old 36 race championship.
Sure.
Right. I mean, you only have to be good in spurts in this to win the title.
Yep.
But they've just been consistently excellent. And, with 9 races to go and 8 wins already in their pocket, it's a pretty decent likelihood they're going to be a double-digit race winner.
Yep.
And, I mean, there's been sometimes not even, just a few years ago where, I mean, the top race winner of the entire year only won 5 races in a season. So, I mean, I think Jimmy Johnson maybe was the last double-digit race winner.
Yeah, 2007, I think that was. Maybe.
Yeah, I mean, it's been.
Yep.
It just doesn't happen very often. So,
yep.
as many good guys and as many good teams have come along, it's hard to dominate like this. So it's, kudos to them. I mean, they've been super impressive. I guess the question is how long can they keep it up? But when you look at next year, it's going to be again same rules package. Can't develop any new parts. There's a freeze on all that because the new car is coming. It was delayed a year, but it's coming after this. So they don't want the team spending money on this car anymore, essentially. So you would think that he would be able to keep this up, once again next year.
At least.
But then I think about Kyle Busch, and we said that exact same thing.
Sure.
Yeah. Right. So that makes me a little hesitant. So I don't know.
Jeff, what you got? Any cool pieces coming out soon that you want to tease or anything like that?
Let's see. I got I write my top 5 column every week, so I just posted that right before we hopped on the phone. What else? I don't really know. It's these weeks are such a scramble now. Like, I was trying to get Denny Hamlin on the phone, during the summer before the playoffs started to do 12 questions. And we were able to squeeze it in on media day last Thursday. So I finally got him, and I was just like, I got to turn this around right away because they usually come out on Wednesday. But I'm like, okay, is this going to happen? Is this not going to happen? And then like the week before I'd gotten Jimmy Johnson on a Friday and stuff. So it's like, you're sort of like hoping you can get these guys, but you don't know if it's really going to come through. And, a lot of these guys, I guess, with homeschooling their kids now and stuff like that, and being home all week, it's harder for them, I guess, to have time, or that's what I've heard anyway. So, or they just don't want to talk to me. One of those. But
well, that's what I say. I think I said they don't need. And someone says, "Oh, get so and so." So and so doesn't need to talk to me. So but I can't imagine anyone not wanting to talk to Jeff Gluck.
Oh, there's plenty. Trust me. But you're one of the nice ones, so I appreciate you, of course.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Jeff. Where can everybody follow you on social media?
Well, you can go to on Twitter. If you're on Twitter, you can go to Jeff_Gluck, Gluck. Same as Instagram, although I'm not posting as many quiet track pictures lately, just because I'm not at tracks. But if you want to see pictures of my toddler, then you can go there. But yeah, that's pretty much. I guess I kind of dropped Facebook. I used to post on my Facebook page all the time, but man, I hardly get on Facebook anymore. I don't know.
I'm bad with it too. I'm bad.
Yeah.
With it. Yep. Well, Jeff, man, this was such a blast. Thank you so much for calling into the show tonight. Thanks for help setting the bar high for a episode 200 next week. Appreciate the support. The best to you, the family. Stay safe, stay healthy, and look forward to talking to you a lot sooner than 96 shows.
Yes, absolutely. I think 200 episodes is a big accomplishment, by the way, especially in this day and age when, it's hard to, everybody can start a project, everybody can start a podcast. It's in that sense sort of easier than ever to start one, but to stick with it, to grow a reputation in a really crowded space where everybody's sort of competing for listeners, to get guests who are willing to, spend their time to go on with you, and respect you enough to give you a call and stuff. I mean, hey, those are things not to be taken lightly. So that's a big accomplishment, making it to 200. Congrats to you. And next time, have me on for a nice round number.
Excellent.
And okay.
Will do.
Sounds good.
Thanks, man. I really appreciate the kind words. We'll talk to you soon.
All right. Have a good one.
Thanks. You too. Lap Traffic Nation. How awesome was Jeff Gluck right there. Oh, it was so good to catch back up with him. That was way, way too long of a gap between his appearances on the show. And he likes nice round numbers, so maybe 250. That'll be a good, nice round number to have him on, which will obviously be sometime next year. But, man, that was a lot of fun. Just a wealth of knowledge, just a great perspective on the sport. Love talking to Jeff. So awesome, and just a kind-hearted individual for sure. All right, Lap Traffic Nation, it is time. We need to recap Darlington. Let's get Lap Traffic Intern Dan Ryan on the phone. All right, Lap Traffic Nation, joining me on the line. I'm so excited. He is the new intern of the Lap Traffic Podcast, so he is here to recap his fan experience at Darlington this past weekend. So this is going to be a lot of fun. I'm excited. Welcome back to the Lap Traffic Podcast, Dan Ryan. Dan, what's up, brother? How are you?
Oh, my gosh. I said it before, and I will say this again. There is no other intern out there that gets that good of an intro. I promise you that. There's no other intern anywhere that will get an intro as good as that. That was phenomenal.
I appreciate that. And it's funny, there are people out there, and Dan and I are on FaceTime, so he can see, like, as I'm scrolling through the multiple pages of notes, I didn't even have that written down. That's the funny thing. So that's the best part about it.
I couldn't ad-lib that good if I tried. And I guarantee you, if somebody who knows me hears this, they will say that I can. But it's funny.
That's great. All right. Dan, we got a lot to talk about. First thing I want to do before we even get into Darlington and your trip to Darlington and all that kind of stuff is I want to talk about with you. I want to get your take on the breaking news today of the Auto Club reconfiguration. What do you think, man?
Yeah, I actually, I was pretty shocked this morning. I woke up and I was sitting around checking emails and I get a blip on my phone and it was from your other co-host or guest tonight on the show, Jeff Gluck, and it was saying about the reconfiguration. And I really could see that working. I feel like, Auto Club, as good of a track as it is, in terms of the package that NASCAR goes there with, it really hasn't been a total mass event like it has been in past years. So I feel like doing this is something new. It's something fresh. And I feel like for the West Coast to have a short track, I think that it's definitely going to be something that if NASCAR can pull this off, we're looking at a pretty good race on our schedule there.
Absolutely. I'm with you there. I like that you hit on the fact that, the West Coast side of things, when we look at years back, early 2000s, everyone has made the analogy. I've made the analogy 100 times on the show. Auto Club in Michigan, two very similar 2-mile D-shaped tracks. Michigan's lost. They've taken so much seating out of that place. Auto Club lost a race. And the appeal for that big 2 miles just isn't there anymore. It's all about short tracks. It's all about road course racing. And if that helps keep a date at Auto Club and it gives what everybody wants right now, which is short track racing, obviously, hopefully short track racing stays a fan favorite for a minute. I mean, it always has, so why would it go away? But I definitely think that is the move in the right direction. I'm excited to see how that shapes out. I'm not sure. I don't recall seeing anything about banking, but just the sketch image that was released on social media. If that doesn't scream Martinsville to you, I don't know what else would. And so that excites me. I am excited to see how that would play out. I'm excited for the fans in the West Coast.
And the other thing is, too, I feel like as both a fan and somebody who is very involved in what goes on in the sport here, if I were out on the West Coast, I know people in California and I know fans that are out on the West Coast. And could you imagine the fact that they get to go and see something like a Martinsville or a Bristol or something that's like that style of a track out on that side of the country? It would be phenomenal. And I think that even this is the inner marketing major in me. I think that from a marketer's perspective, it would be a huge home run for the sport to put something small like that out there.
Absolutely. I'm with you 100%. All right. Let's shift gears. Let's talk about your experience at Darlington this weekend. And I want to start out, it's unfortunate that we as fans have to say that, not many of us have been able to get to a race this year. You were able to go, which was awesome. Talk about the process, parking, getting in, getting to your seat, how free were you to move about the concourse, to get concessions, merchandise, just kind of talk about like the nuts and bolts that we normally don't need to talk about when it comes to going to a race. What was it like as a fan going to a race in 2020?
Yeah, so actually, this was one of the first points I was going to touch on. And this going to Darlington, obviously going to Darlington in any other year is very special, but it was also special for me this year, being that it was my first time ever not being at my home tracks at Dover and Pocono. So I didn't really know what to expect to begin with, but I do want to say to anyone from NASCAR or to anyone from Darlington that may listen to this podcast at some point.
Nobody, but that's
I
okay.
want to say, no, I believe it. But I do want to say to anybody from NASCAR Darlington, thank you, because it blew my mind at the amount of safety and the amount of planning and the fact that even that they wanted to have fans at an event like this. And, to anybody out there who may be doubting on having fans at events or sporting events, or anybody that may be skeptical about it, you really should look into what NASCAR is doing for the fans at these events, because it was amazing. Upon arrival, they checked in with us on a regular basis ahead of time to make sure that we were meeting all the requirements, that we hadn't been feeling sick. And then upon arrival to the track, we had to wait for they gave us certain times where we had to enter. They staggered the entry. We had our temperatures checked multiple times. Then when we went in the track, we had a one way in, one way out.
Well, so let me ask you this. Let's say somebody got caught in traffic or late start and missed their entry time. Like, was there like at the end, that's when you could go back in or something like that?
Yeah, they staggered the entry. So, for example, we were in the very first group to go in. We went in at 3:00, and if we missed it, we had to wait till 4:30.
Okay.
And then everybody else could go in after that. But everybody that went in, everybody was, we went through security. It was a quick, easy process through security. Then once you got into the tracks, they gave you complimentary hand sanitizer. They had quick locations to get to any of the restrooms. And everywhere we went in the track, I know you were talking about the one-way entry and things like that. They had corridors for us across the concourse, through any of the entry and exits. Going up to the stands, we could only go up one section, come down another. So it was very, very elaborately thought out. And everybody, even to the fans, I have to give the fans credit here. Everybody who was there that I saw when we were around each other was wearing masks. When we got up to our seats, they told us that we could take our masks off once we were in our seats directly, and everybody else in the stands was all spaced out as well. So it was definitely, you could tell that they put some serious planning and some serious prep into making this happen. And to NASCAR, I think that, it speaks volume of our sport when we were the first sport back in general, and now we're the first sport back with fans. So, to other sports that are out there and to other venues who are going to be needing fans to come back very soon, I feel that everybody should be looking to NASCAR because they're doing it right. They're setting the bar. And I feel as though that what they did for us and to have us go and enjoy an event like that was top notch. And I've never felt safer at a mass event like that, especially despite what's going on in the world right now.
That's awesome. I've talked a lot about in terms of it's not so much the being at your seat, it's the walking around and not even so much NASCAR because it's all open area. Like football, for example, if you're in a dome or something like that, a little bit more enclosed space,
right.
It's getting people in, out the concourse and all that without having open air. But I did not think of the fact of, normally, and I'll use the analogy, walking through a football stadium, like my seats at the Lions are in, I think, 335.
Right.
You can go in 335, 336, 334, 335, so to have, one way in and one way out just to reduce the amount of passing back and forth, that's genius, a lot smarter
planning.
People, putting thoughts into that, which is great.
And the other thing somebody else asked me too, they were like, you're wearing a mask. Were you guys all outside? And that's to answer that question. Yes, everything there, NASCAR tracks, everything's really kind of outside anyway.
Yep.
So being that it's a venue like that, that definitely helps. And, even on a good day, it was very nice to have our sections where our seats were spaced out from each other, just so we weren't overcrowding each other. I didn't see anybody around anybody that wasn't like part of that particular group. Everybody, even the fans, I feel like we all kind of knew we were there to see something special. So we all wanted to play it safe. And I definitely give the fans, I give NASCAR props, I give Darlington Raceway props, and everything was top notch when it came to the safety on Sunday.
That's great. Talk like seating. So how many seats spaced down before someone else was in your row? How many, in terms of in front or behind you?
There was nobody within that row. We were on one end of the row, and the row held. I was in seat 23, and I was on the end. So imagine 23 seats across, all the way down to the under end of the row. I think that there was another group at the very end, so that was well over at least 10 feet away.
Sure.
And there was nobody within 3 rows in front of me or 3 rows behind me.
Okay.
So
and
that's
then what
at least
about the
another
aisle over? Was there someone on the end on your seat too? No.
No,
okay.
Closest group across the aisle for me was maybe 4 seats down, and then even over a couple still. So everybody, and you're thinking too, they had 8,000 fans in I don't even know how many Darlington holds, 100,000 seater Leviathan. Like it's a big area.
Sure.
So they definitely used that space to their advantage. And there was even fans on the backstretch. I didn't even realize that Darlington has a small bleacher area on the backstretch.
Yep.
And they had fans even put there as well.
Finish side over there.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. I totally forgot going into it about the reconfiguration. And then I was looking and I said, oh, there's fans on the old stands over there. And so using that to their advantage, they definitely were able to make it work for everybody. And it was definitely an experience. For your first Darlington experience, I didn't really know what to expect, but for that, it was definitely something you won't forget.
That's awesome. Now, what about the end of the race? Because normally, end of the race, you'll see people, within the first few sections at the start-finish line kind of, bum rush the flag stand area there a little bit. Did you have that? Were they, over the PA speaker right beforehand saying, please don't do that? How did they try to maintain crowd control at the end there?
I really couldn't. I will be honest. I couldn't tell because I was on the far end of the front stretch and looking down, it was kind of hard to see from being up so high and down there.
Sure.
But I will say that when I was leaving, even when I did leave and I ran down to the bleachers, to the bottom of the bleachers, there was no crowding. And before we left our seats, I noticed everybody had their masks on. A lot of people on the exits, they were keeping their masks on until they got to their cars. And even when we got to our cars, I want to believe that the parking even kind of spaced us out a little bit.
Sure.
So we weren't really overcrowding somebody else's car because there wasn't really anybody else around us when we got back to our car. And I definitely feel like the fans were taking it seriously and everybody else was trying to do the best they could to keep space from each other, but still at the same time stay with their groups. So it definitely worked out for everybody very well.
Cool. Now, now you mentioned entrance. You had time slots staggered to when you could come in. What about leaving? Was it kind of like a free for all? Everyone can kind of just leave when they want.
Everybody left at the same time, but we all they had it where we could easily make it out of the track. All the entrance areas I noticed through ticketing and everything were all taken away. Like all the entry tents for security and everything were moved so that we could it was a bigger space for us to spread out as we were leaving.
That's awesome. Man, I'm so happy you were able to go there. All right, that's the nuts and bolts. Let's talk about some of the racing that we saw this weekend. You were able to catch the tail end of the truck race there. I wasn't sure what to expect with the truck since they hadn't run at Darlington since 2011. Only Sauter and Crafton were the 2 series veterans that had run the last truck race at Darlington. I thought it was either going to be a shit show or everyone was going to behave, and for the most part, everyone behaved. What did you think about the end of the truck race that you saw there?
I thought it was actually it was pretty cool. I have only seen a handful of truck races at Dover when I've been there, but just getting to catch that, it was really cool because that little shootout that they had there at the end, and it was so different from watching, for example, the Cup race because that was at night. You could definitely see how these guys were kind of fighting it on the hot track and everything. It was really cool, and especially with Ben Rhodes there at the end, getting the win. Everybody who was in the stands was was really cheering for him. I remember this one group in front of me. It was a father a mother, father, and 2 kids. They were so into it, and I don't know if they follow the truck series or not, but they were all decked in like Kyle Busch and Harvick merch, so I knew they were Cup people, but they were so into it, and I think everybody was just kind of happy to get to see a truck race there.
Absolutely.
So that was definitely really cool.
That's cool. You know, you mentioned the end there with Ben Rhodes. You know, I obviously love Ben Rhodes. He's been a big part of the show a couple times. I was happy as hell that he won, but I was stunned. I could not believe that Austin Hill came in and pitted. I didn't see the benefit there. To me, the only thing I could think of, the only rationale I could put into that was their crew chiefs were thinking that, all right, this is kind of, I'm using air quotes, kind of a short track. We haven't been here. It's Darlington. We're going to have a shootout here for it. They had to have been banking on cautions breeding cautions, and we're expecting to have a second because that was the only benefit. You know, Austin Hill ended up, I think he restarted 12th, finished third in 2 laps, obviously because of the fan out and beating a couple guys to the line there. You know, another restart, tires might have paid off, but just based on how that race was ran, I didn't anticipate a second caution coming. Obviously, I can say that now, knowing the race is over. No, I didn't either. You know, so I think he kind of threw that one away there. Well, he didn't. You know, I think the team maybe did. You know, but they're obviously a lock in the playoffs and all that good stuff, and have a comfortable lead to get the playoff bonus points there as the series champ or the regular season champ. But I was still baffled by that call.
Yeah, and the other thing too, going back to that, you know, I feel like it's kind of almost like you know, you have to as a crew chief, you kind of, you know, it's all about your strategy. So, you know, it's up to them. And I feel like they were kind of trying to see something to see if it worked. And, you know, you're riding on a caution. If that caution had come out, then you were golden. And it's just, I feel like it was kind of more of a series of unfortunate events for them. And, you know, they couldn't get it there at the end. So, but for Ben Rhodes, it was definitely really cool to see that happen. I was really, you know, seeing it in person, it was really cool to see that happen for him. And I think that's going to, you know, put a plus for them in the playoffs.
Absolutely. And we can't end the talk about the truck race without talking about Johnny Sauter. I've been talking about him for weeks now, and it just amazes me how someone could have so much bad luck for someone that's so experienced.
I know.
You know, he's on the verge of not making the playoffs for the Truck Series. Next week is it at Richmond. And like Darlington this past week, where they haven't run since 2011, it's been even longer since the trucks have run at Richmond. You know, I would like to say that could play in his favor because he too was one of the last, you know, him and Crafton ran the Richmond last truck race that was there. But, you know, there's just no indications to support that Sauter's going to come out and just have like this breakthrough race to be able to win and lock himself into the playoffs. And there is no way in the world he's making up that kind of point differential. So it's so sad because you just expect when you're talking trucks, Crafton and Sauter to be in the topic of conversation. And he's in the topic of conversation, just not for the right reasons.
Right. And I feel like, you know, for him, when I've looked at him this season and everything, it always brings back the Kyle Busch motto for me. Oh, it's just 2020. And, you know, it's shocking to see that that's happening. And, you know, but at the same time, I feel as though Richmond could kind of play into a favor for him because, you know, like you said, he has the experience. And at the same time, none of these other truck drivers have been there. And it's almost like, you know, having it been this long and how far the truck series has come since then and how much Richmond may or may not have changed since then, it's going to be different for everybody in a way, in one way or another. So I feel as though for him, maybe the odds are in his favor and maybe, you know, his experience, you know, he is very experienced in the truck series and maybe that'll play into his favor. And if it does, it's going to be, you know, the greatest thing ever. It's going to be the story we're talking about all week. If he can pull that off. So, you know, I think we'll just have to wait till Sunday or wait till
Thursday night
for that. Thursday that's right.
Night. We get Thursday night football.
I'm still on a whole schedule here, on a whole different schedule coming off of Darlington.
Yes.
I still think it's So Thursday night.
Thursday night NASCAR, Thursday night football. Sign my ass up. I'm gonna be busy on DraftKings. Let me tell you.
I know. You're gonna have to be like all my friends do with all the multiple screens.
You know it.
And my buddy Mike, I was calling him from Darlington the other night. He's like, I can't talk right now. I'm doing fantasy. I'm like, okay, I'll let you go. But like I said, I think that's gonna have to be. We'll have to wait till that day and see what happens for them.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right, let's shift gears. Let's talk a little Xfinity Series. I'm going to be honest. Live Traffic Nation, I told you at the start of the show, I was driving home Saturday from a little weekend getaway with the wife there, so I caught some very brief highlights of the Xfinity race. So I'm not going to pretend like I caught all of it. Dan, the end, though, I mean, that's obviously where the show was at. What were your thoughts on the Xfinity Series race?
Oh, that finish was something else. I mean, I think that finish kind of set the tone for what was going to happen at the next day at Darlington. In a way, I feel with Chastain and with Denny Hamlin, getting into each other. I didn't expect to see. We'll talk about this part in a minute. I didn't expect to see what was going to be a repeat the next day. But for Brandon Jones, I mean, hey, that was right place, right time. And that shows right there that, that's racing at its finest, and it's not over till it's over.
Sure. Well, and the interesting thing is, we had all three races, the Truck, Xfinity Cup, the third place guy late in the race ended up winning the race, but in three different ways. We had the Truck race to where it was a no pit strategy call that let the third place guy. The Xfinity race, we saw the third place guy get it on the white flag, which is obviously exciting. And then on Saturday night, we saw it where there was I think it was 13, 14 laps to go is when the leaders got into each other. No caution. Everybody was able to clear the track and all that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. And the leader was barely able to hold on, which we'll get to that in a minute too. So 3 races, third place guy gets the win in uniquely different fashions, which was pretty cool.
Yeah, and all at the same track.
Yes, right. Yeah, it's not like we had that happen.
Right in one spot. Yeah,
right.
One weekend, one track.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right, let's shift gears one more time. Let's talk about the big dance, the Southern 500 Saturday night. Man, you mentioned Sunday night.
Sunday
That's
night.
right. Sunday night. Yes, Sunday night.
You caught the bug for me now. I don't know what day it is either.
I was at this race a couple years ago with the PETM podcast. We went as fans. We tent camped at Darlington, sweat our asses off for 3 days, but had the best time. And I definitely, that's one of those gotta go back type tracks, just like Eldora.
I want to go back already.
Exactly. You just feel history the second you pull in.
I was going to touch on that too. I was going to say, as soon as you walk in, you feel like you're on hallowed ground. Mm-hmm. Like, and even for NASCAR fans and non-NASCAR fans, you have to look up Darlington if you're not a NASCAR fan and see what it's like. It's so old and authentic, and walking in there, it feels like hallowed ground.
Absolutely. So the early chatter on Twitter during the race, there were a lot of unhappy people that race. Dare I say, a boring Darlington race, but out of 367 laps, you saw Martin Truex Jr. dominate early, winning both stages, led 196 laps, and I will go on record to say, just because someone dominates a race doesn't mean you still can't have a good race. But I get where people could say it didn't appear from a broadcast perspective that there were that many battles for position early on in the race, which I can get people's beef with that. From your view, in the stands, were there battles on the track that we weren't seeing from a broadcast perspective early on?
Oh yeah, I feel as though the leaders are one thing, but definitely back in the pack early, there was a lot of battles between many different positions. I know that Clint Boyer and Kyle Busch, they were getting into it very early. They're racing for position, and hey, you're both right around each other in the playoffs. You want to it's the very first race, and you want to go out and make something happen. And I feel as though there was a lot of battles throughout the entire race through many different people in the pack. You had a lot of different strategies that were going through so many different teams at so many different times. And I feel as though that throughout the entire race, everybody, especially once the sun went down and the whole track changed, I feel as though there was a lot of different action going on in many different parts of the track.
Sure. I'm with you there. We had 2 late cautions that really made pit strategy interesting. 13 laps to go. We saw what happened with Chase Elliott in front of Martin Truex Jr. We saw the slide up. Wasn't 100% clear, which sent both drivers hard into the wall, allowing Harvick to get the lead. It was not. I want to say this. It was not smooth sailing for Harvick. Pressure from Austin Dillon in the closing laps. And I will say this. If there had been one more lap, I think Austin Dillon picks up another crown jewel win.
Yep. I think even as the Kevin Harvick fan in the room sitting here, I was, especially when that happened, that was I couldn't even believe, I still can't believe that actually happened. And I actually saw that, that's one of those, you can't script this if you tried moments. And seeing that happen, I was listening to his spotter, Timmy Fido, on the headset, and during those closing laps, and he kept coaching him so well through those last 10 laps. And, like you said, I feel as though had it been one more lap, we might have had a different story.
Yeah, and you have to give props to Austin Dillon.
Right.
I know Austin Dillon, and I talked about this with Jeff Gluck earlier in the show. Austin Dillon takes a lot of flack and a lot of heat on social media, and I get that, and I do. But coming from, as everybody knows, you're a Harvick fan, I'm a Harvick fan, seeing the struggles that RCR has gone through, having a tie for so many years as a Harvick fan to RCR, I really want to see RCR, be part of the topic of conversation once again. And I think Tyler Riddick is going to tremendously help that. Austin Dillon has his moments of brilliance, but,
right.
Depending, those are far and few between. So to be able to come out, go ahead.
I heard a report. I don't know where, I forget who I heard this from, but I was listening to it and it stuck with me that I think it was in the post-race show going home that they talked about Austin Dillon and said how he's kind of like Denny Hamlin now, racing more with his head and racing more, being a smarter racer and being, and thinking about the situation more. And I feel as though that's definitely it's almost like, how we're seeing that with Denny Hamlin. We're kind of seeing that now with Austin Dillon too.
Well, I'm with you 100%. And when you look at, Austin Dillon, he's got a Daytona 500 win. He's got a Coke 600 win. He's only got 3 wins as it is, and he almost picked up another crown jewel. He almost picked up 3 out of 4 crown jewels and in just only having 3 wins. That's unprecedented to be able to say, hey, to have that, I was excited. I obviously, not that I wanted to, but you just, from a numbers perspective, if you got to pick who's out, Austin Dillon's out. He is not going to make it to the round of 12. But he definitely turned some heads with his performance there. And he's not even, he's kind of on the brink. He's sitting 8th in standings, but when you look at, let's just say 7th, Chase Elliott, 2045, 14th, Cole Custer, 2030. We're only talking about 10 to 15 points. That's not a lot with 2 short tracks coming up to close out round 1. So it's going to be interesting.
I definitely think, and I was going to touch on this too, everybody, I was at that race with a Martin Truex and a Chase Elliott fan the other night. And I have to tell you, they were a little bit how they felt after the race. They were kind of skeptical as to what's going to happen, but you have to look at the situation and look at the big picture here. I believe that if you wanted something like that to happen, or if that was going to happen to you during the playoffs, this is the race that you wanted it to happen to, because it was the very first race in the playoffs. Everybody's starting this. It's like we hit the reset button. And, if something's going to go wrong, this was where you wanted it to go wrong. And looking at them, sitting 6th and 7th in the playoffs, they're definitely going to be able to hopefully rebound from that.
Sure.
And there's definitely room for them to rebound from that. And I feel as though, if you're one of those two guys, and you get wrecked out right before you win, you're still going to have some chances. And we all know how Truex can be at Richmond. We know that now we have Bristol coming up. And if you look at Bristol, not only have they already had 2 races this year to get some practice there, but I think we know who won the All-Star race, the last night race that we had there.
Sure.
So, there's definitely room for these two guys to come back and hopefully rebound from that.
Absolutely. Well, Gluck said it earlier. Round 1, all you have to do is finish top 10, top 12 for the 3 races, and you have a cakewalk into the next round, and that's when things start to heat up.
Yeah.
So yeah. I'm with you there. It's interesting. You're a Harvick fan. You're sitting there. The wind kind of.
I know where you're going with this.
The wind kind of fell in our lap. And I'm gonna. We were in the right place, right time. It fell to us. But I gotta ask. You're riding home for 8 hours with a Truex and a Chase Elliott fan. You're sitting there like a fat kid with a piece of cake for 8 hours on the ride home. How was that conversation?
The irony. Oh my gosh. It was. My 2 friends, Jerry and Brendan, I have to give them a lot of credit. We call ourselves a NASCAR trio. We grew up, we root for each other's drivers because of our friendship. And that night, we were, all 3 of us were doing pretty good, sitting 1, 2, 3, and we thought that's how it was going to end. And I definitely, and Kevin said this himself, he didn't have the car to win that race. It just kind of fell. It was, a lot of it had to do with that luck. And,
sure.
But we thought it was going to go 1, 2, 3. And I'm telling you, we're sitting there in turn 1 and you see these 2 come down side by side, and then Truex and Elliott, they go into turn 1 and they go right up into the wall. If NASCAR, they should have had a camera on us 3 at that point. It was amazing. Those 3, I look out of the corner of my eye, and those 3 hit the ground stomping, and I just go, yeah! I start screaming. It was the craziest. It was the craziest mix of emotions you would ever see. And afterwards, I felt so bad for them, but I was over the moon. I could not believe,
sure.
And even they said that they couldn't believe it. And then, of course, you have to ride home back to Myrtle Beach with a Truex and a Chase Elliott fan in the car. The mood was frosty
sure.
Towards the end when we left. And I said, I'm going to kick back and I am going to relax and enjoy this ride home. I'm going to enjoy every single minute of it.
Excellent.
And that's exactly what I did. It was the most hilarious thing. And like I said, you couldn't script it better if you tried.
Excellent. I love it. All right. Well, I think that's a great way to end the race talk. Let's hit a little social media. Everybody, make sure you check out the website, thelaptrafficpodcast.com, Facebook, The Lap Traffic Podcast, Instagram and Twitter @LapTrafficPC. Listen to the show on iTunes, Podbean. All you got to do is search NASCAR or The Lap Traffic Podcast. You will find us. There are some giveaways about to go down live tonight, which I'm very excited about. Dan is going to talk about those in a minute. Real quick, though, I'm going to do some new follower shout outs. Allie NY Lander 29, a big HMS and Zane Smith fan. Welcome to the show. Camille, a big 48 fan. Welcome to the show. And K-Taddy @KTaddy4, a NASCAR heat driver from Oklahoma. Welcome to the show, guys. Don't forget about stickers and koozies. I've got them for free for you. If you want one, visit the website, thelaptrafficpodcast.com. Fill out the contact page, and I will send one out to you for free. All right, Dan. Episode 200 is next week. You went to work early. You reached out to Hunt Brothers Pizza, who generously donated an awesome prize pack that we're dividing up into 3 giveaways with some Lap Traffic merch thrown in as well. What's the deal for these giveaways?
So we're going to have, and first of all, like you said, I have to give a huge thank you to Hunt Brothers for making this work. They're an awesome sponsor, and the fact that they wanted to help out with this was amazing. We're going to, like you said, do 3 giveaways for our 200th episode. And we have in the 3 packs, we have a Harvick t-shirt mixed in with, Let me find it. I'm trying to look and see what we got here. I'm holding the suspense at the same time. We have a Harvick t-shirt mixed in with a Harvick playoff hat, a lap traffic t-shirt with koozies and stickers included, a Harvick pair of socks, and Harvick beer koozies. Our second package is a pair of Hunt Brothers Pizza socks, which is the coolest pair of socks you have ever seen in your entire life. A lap traffic t-shirt and koozies included, a Hunt Brothers Harvick hat, and another Kevin Harvick Hunt Brothers Pizza Racing shirt, and some stickers, and 2 1/6/4 die casts thrown in there as well. And this is the granddaddy of all giveaways. We have a Lab Traffic Podcast t-shirt with a pair of Hunt Brothers Pizza Kevin Harvick socks, a Hunt Brothers Pizza Kevin Harvick koozies, not cooler, Lab Traffic koozies, and a 1/4 scale Harvick Hunt Brothers Pizza diecast, which is one of my all-time favorite paint schemes. So whoever gets that is going to be cool. And
it's a 2020 diecast. Like, it's a this year diecast.
It's the brand new one.
They only made like 700 of them. So that was very generous of Hunt Brothers Pizza to give away a 124.
Absolutely.
From this year. That's really cool.
And like I said, I collect 124s, and I have one of them I'm looking at it right now, and it's one of my favorite schemes. So whoever gets that they're going to be really lucky. And do you want me to do the rules on here too?
Yes. How can people win one of these 3 awesome prize packs?
So for our 200th episode giveaway, we have on Instagram, you have to follow Hunt Brothers Pizza and follow the Lap Traffic at Lap Traffic PC on Instagram. You have to like the post, tag 3 friends, and if you want a bonus entry, you can share our post on Instagram to your story, and that will count as a bonus entry. On Twitter, we are doing this. When we post the packs on Twitter, we're going to be doing. You have to follow Lap Traffic and Hunt Brothers Pizza at HBP Racing. Retweet our tweet and then tag a friend in the comments below, and you will automatically be entered to win whatever giveaway we post on Twitter.
Excellent. Yes. And what I'm going to be doing is I'm literally going to be screenshotting if I'm not at home or whatever, everybody that does that, and I'm going to write them down, and I'm literally going to do like old school, name and a hat thing. You saw me do it last week. Like,
nah, this is what he has the intern for, ladies and gentlemen. He's secretly going to put the intern to work. We all know
grunt,
this.
Grunt work.
What I will be doing, I can keep track of everybody from Instagram who enters. And if you share it to your story, we will see it and you'll be entered. And I will refer all of this I will refer all the usernames to Brandon, who will pick the winner, randomize it, and pick the winner.
Yes.
And we will be announcing that on the 200th episode next week.
I'm very excited. So keep the follows going, the retweets, all that good stuff, the shares. And
to tag onto your social media segment right there, can I add one more little bit in there? Because
make sure you put in where people can follow you at as well. So go ahead.
Well, I have to shout out this one awesome group that I met when I was down at Darlington doing my bit of intern market networking.
Yes.
I ran into these 2 fans from Charlotte, and their names are John and Trey, and they are both from Charlotte. And they're a Kevin Harvick and a Chase Elliott fan, much like me and my friend Brendan are Harvick and Elliott fans. And I was talking to them, and I happened to have a can of the limited Busch Light apple beer. And they were like, "Where'd you get that? We can't find it." And I said, "No, I brought it down when I came down for the race because they have it in my state." And they're like, "We can't find it anywhere." So I gave them a can. I had some left over. I gave it to them, and I gave them a Lap Traffic koozie and a pen. And they go, "No." The best part of this all was they looked at me and they go, "No way, we collect koozies." And I was like, "Well, here you go." Gave them the koozies, and I said, if you feel up to it, if you want to post it on social media, tag us in it. That would like make my day. And next thing I know, it wasn't even the end of the race, and I get a follow from them, and I get a thank you from them, and they were just 2 awesome guys. So in your social media segment, I definitely want to shout John and Trey out for giving us a follow and supporting the Lap Traffic Nation at the Southern 500.
Absolutely love that. Fantastic. All right, Dan, where can everybody follow you at on Twitter?
You can follow me at on Instagram. My username is Dan_Ryan, and on Twitter at DRyan5962. But if you really want to make my day, you can go on Instagram and follow the Lap Traffic Podcast at Lap Traffic PC on Instagram, and definitely keep our followers going. That is where you will find all the info coming up for our 200th episode giveaway, and that is where you will find all the updates from the traffic, and that is where you will find yourself making my day if you follow it.
Excellent. Love it. And you did a hell of a job with the stories, the live stories, all that kind of stuff. That was great. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Love
I appreciate that. It
All
was
right.
a lot of fun.
Yeah, no, it was great to watch. It was unique. It was different. It was something I could never figure out how to do on Instagram.
I was glad that I could help bring that perspective to, the fans. Like I said, it was definitely really cool to be one of those, and I was trying to do the best I could with that.
No, it was great. I love it. All right, Lap Traffic Nation, huge thanks to the new Lap Traffic intern, Dan Ryan. Be on the lookout for his stuff on Instagram, and be on the lookout for the giveaways. Dan, great to talk to you. We'll talk to you very soon, and look forward to it, man. Enjoy the rest of the week, man.
Thank you. You too. Thanks, guys. I appreciate it.
See ya. Well, Lap Traffic Nation, if you haven't figured it out, it's going to be a little bit of a lengthy show this week, and you can bank on it next week, too. So settle it. Great to talk to Lap Traffic Podcast intern Dan Ryan. Great to hear about his in-race experience at Darlington this weekend. But now it is time for this week's weather segment with Mr. Aaron Studwell. All right, Lap Traffic Nation, joining me on the line. You can follow him on Twitter at RaceWeather, along with Brian Newdorf, keeping us up to date on all the weather happenings as we wrap up this NASCAR season with just 9 races to go. It's such a bummer. But nonetheless, welcome back to the show, Mr. Aaron Studwell. Sir, good evening. How are you?
Good evening, sir. I'm doing well. 9 races. Oh, my God.
Isn't that crazy?
How did that happen?
It just snuck up on us. Like, at one point, it felt like we had the entire season left to go, and boom, now we're down to just 9. That is crazy.
It's been a good season, though. But, yeah, definitely going to, it's kind of you look at the offseason, it's like, oh, I'm going to miss it again.
Yes. Yeah. No, it's been one hell of a year. That's for sure.
Yeah.
How was your Labor Day weekend, sir? I know you
It was nice.
busy.
Yeah, I was going to say it's nice. Racing filled. That Sunday, starting with the Italian Grand Prix and the little, okay, we'll just even go to Friday with the truck race, and Saturday. It was a great weekend of racing, and then you throw in the F1 race, and wow, that was great.
That's awesome. And I know you got some things. I'm just going to put a teaser out there. You've got some things working behind the scenes that I'm very excited to see how that progresses over the next couple weeks.
Yeah, I have 2. I want to just more generically say motorsports related projects. Both are fairly big projects, and I really anticipate both coming into fruition. And as we talked the other day before we talked here, the announcements will be made right here on Lap Traffic.
I absolutely love that. I'm very excited about that. All right. Before we get to the weather, we've got football and NASCAR on Thursday night. If I must, fine, go ahead. Give me football and NASCAR on a Thursday night. I am very excited about that. I am still curious if they're even going to get to the kickoff because, if you recall March Madness, like there were Big Ten tournaments and all that going on, and some games started, some they just called and pulled. I am until they kick off that the at about 8 o'clock or so Thursday night. Yeah. I'm still not confident that the season's starting.
The one thing that does give me a little hope is that it seems like the testing numbers have been let me refer it this way. The reported testing numbers have actually been pretty good.
Yes.
With the NFL.
Yes. No, that is true. It's a different year when I'm only in one fantasy football league.
Hey, that's one more than me, and I think this may be the first year. This may be the first year for me since 1989 that I have not had a team.
That's crazy. Yeah, no, it's just, some leagues holding off. I got one league that we're just doing a weekly thing on DraftKings and holding off
That's
on
smart.
Yahoo and all that kind of stuff. So, but one, we're still going to try to press on, and we'll see what happens there. So,
see, I might be talked into like just going to ESPN and going into like a fans of Washington group or a fans of whatever group and we're just strangers, no money.
Yep.
But it gives me a reason to
keep an eye
tune
on
in.
things. Absolutely. Yep. All right. The 500. Actually, all three races this weekend all ended kind of strangely. What'd you think of that?
You use strangely. I use exciting.
Yes.
I thought it was, it was good hard racing on all days. I'll start with the truck race. I'm not a crew chief, although I think I might have done what Ben Rhodes' team did in staying out.
Yeah, I agree.
It's
100%.
not like he needed to win, but for playoff points, for everything that kind of happens from here on out. Yeah, if you honestly, wouldn't see that he would wind up much further back, because what was he, fourth, fifth?
Yep, yeah. He was a solid in, and all that did was just help solidify things and give him a couple extra points along the way. So
right,
it's a great move, great call.
Yeah, and then the one thing I liked seeing at the end of the Xfinity race was actually Chastain and Hamlin being kind of congenial, or just not jumping, not punching one another.
Sure. Just a little, I see you kind of moments. Like, I see you over there.
I thought he went over and did a fist bump.
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
Okay. That's fine.
Yeah.
You know what? Yeah. And Brandon Jones came over and thanked them both.
Right. Absolutely. I would have too.
Yeah, no, it's another one where it's a surprising win. And I thought it was great to watch. Okay. And then it's the Southern 500.
Right.
I love that track. Love going there. 500 miles occasionally is okay. That was kind of drug out in the middle.
Yeah, I agree. And you know what? I put this out there on Twitter because someone had tweeted at me and had said something about why does this feel so long? And I couldn't answer. The only logical thing I could answer with, because I agreed with that, it felt like it was long. Like you said, midway through is, maybe it's just because of the fact we've had some shorter races due to doubles. We've had a couple 300-mile races. We've had some shorter races that maybe that's why this one felt a little longer. I also think, it got strung out a little bit there early, but it picked back up as I expected,
Yeah,
midway
stage
through
three.
Stage 3, we were
right. If I want to say watch the end of it, just jump to stage 3.
Yes.
And keep your finger like on 1.5 speed, and you'll figure out. You'll know when.
Yeah, you'll know when.
Start watching.
Absolutely. Yes. Well, and speaking of that, Kevin Harvick definitely needs to go send Chase Elliott and Truex a case of Busch Light to their hauler for sure.
Yeah. I know. And that was, and maybe send two Truex's spotter, because there was, I won't phrase it quite like Elliott did, but he was not clear.
Yeah. Fair enough. Well, sir, we are headed to Richmond this week. I was at this race last year. It was a blast. I had a great time. The trucks on Thursday night. We've got a Friday and Saturday Xfinity race and a Saturday night Cup race. So how are things looking for Richmond this weekend?
Thursday actually looks pretty good. There's a chance of afternoon showers and thunderstorms, but it really looks like it's going to start dissipating by, let's say, the early evening hours, so we should be good. It's an 8 o'clock local start, which makes it even easier. So that actually looks pretty good. Maybe slight delay at the beginning, but I think they're going to be able to go all 250 miles.
Excellent.
Fridays for the 11th. We had the Xfinity race with the 7 o'clock start. Afternoon showers and thunderstorms continue into early evening. They'll be more scattered. But like with Thursday, it really looks like you're just going to be gone. I think you're going to have a little bit of coverage Friday night, and that same applies to Saturday too. We have a 2 o'clock or 2:10 start with the Xfinity race, and then a 7:30 start with the Cup race, where you're going to see afternoon showers and thunderstorms continuing into the evening hours. So definitely nothing local, not a washout. I think they may just have to be patient at times. And I think it's just going to be like some other races this year where you're going to have a chance of a later start. But then once you start, the rain coverage really kind of clears out, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then the issue might be is with the Xfinity race having a later race, but you have some time between the two as well.
Absolutely. Excellent. Well, I'm excited about that. And we'll wrap it with this. You've got some work to do in the Lap Traffic Fantasy League. You made the playoffs, but you are in the bottom 4 points out of the cut line there. You got 4 races. Best of luck to you this week, sir.
Thank you. But how did Brian do?
Brian did not make the Lap Traffic
playoffs. Okay.
That's all that matters, right?
Yeah, it's like Navy. Navy needs one win after the way they looked last night against Brigham Young. Navy needs one win per season. Yep. They need to beat Army.
Right, yes. The final line was 9-7-2 for you guys.
Good.
Yes.
Good.
Yes.
Yeah.
Nicely
and
done.
Finishing points ahead of him. And you know what? It'll be trying to think which pick. Oh, it was Zane Smith was because I had trying to remember who I had. Harvick.
You had Zane Smith. You had Harvick.
And then Briscoe.
Yeah. So it was Zane Smith hurt you a little bit there, but that's all right. That's all right.
And then Briscoe, he had. Was it a tire cut down or he just lost it?
He slipped into oil early in the race, but rebounded.
Oh, that's right.
So
that's right.
Yes.
When everybody kind of slipped in oil.
Yes. Yeah. Everyone got into it. Yes. All righty, sir. Well, I look forward to next week when it will be both you and Brian Newdorf on the show to help celebrate the 200th episode. I think that's obviously a good reason to have you both on. So everyone, make sure you're following Aaron and Brian this week on Twitter for the updates as we get closer to the green flags, and we'll catch you both next week, sir.
Sounds great. Can't wait to be back.
All right.
Congratulations on 200.
Thank you.
A week early.
Yes, thank you. All right. We'll catch you later.
You will.
Bye. All right, Lap Traffic Nation. Great to catch up with Aaron as always, and look forward to having both Aaron and Brian next week. But right now, it is time for this week's Lucky Dog and Lap Down picks. I'm going to get right into it. My lucky dog, Kevin Harvick. Right place, right time. Lap down, Johnny Sauter. Let's get to your tweeted responses. Scott at 1985 Wagner's lucky dog for the truck race. Ben Rhodes, great team call at the end for the setup. Lap down, Creed. Terrible timing for a pit road mistake. Scott's Xfinity picks. Lucky dog, Brandon Jones gets the benefit of the battle. Lap down, Daniel Hamrick, two-lap race. And Scott's Cup picks. Lucky dog is Austin Dillon, surprise of the race. Lap down, Martin Truex Jr. had to try and do a repeat of the Xfinity race yesterday. 3 races in a row where 1 and 2 get tangled with a handful left. Great call there. Jess at Iowa NASCAR fans. Lucky dog the fans for seeing 3 great races this weekend in Harvick. Right place, right time. Lap down. Martin Truex Jr., Elliott, Chastain, Hamlin, and Creed. All right place late, but certain circumstances changed the dynamic of 3 races. Good call there. Rowdy at the Rowdy Dragons. Lucky dog Kevin Harvick putting himself into position to win. Lap down. The 19 and 9 get my vote. The 19 for not being patient and the 9 for getting walled. Or, as we can call it, he got striped at Darlington. Eddie at Eddie _EG3. Lucky dog Brandon Jones once again finds himself right place, right time. I think that if I titled the shows, that would be the title for this week. Right place, right time. To take advantage of the Hail Mary move by Hamlin late to win the Xfinity race. Lap down, Martin Truex Jr. and Chase threw away a bunch of points and taking themselves both out of a chance to win the race. Brandon at Brandon K. Carls. Lucky dog goes to that Kevin guy who drives the 4 car. I'm sticking to my gut and saying that he will still get screwed out of a championship. I hope not. Lap down for Brandon is Martin Truex Jr. Chase Elliott. Truex pulled a chase and absolutely sent it in there without any hope of sticking it. Jeff at JBev1789's lucky dog for the Xfinity race goes to every single person who watched the Xfinity race. Lap down those who missed watching the Xfinity race. And Jeff's Cup picks goes to Lucky Dog goes to Austin Dillon. Great points day to help him possibly get to the round of 12. Lap down, Martin Truex Jr. thinking anyone would let me in at the Southern 500. It's never going to happen. Great call there. All right, those are your tweeted responses. Let's get to your calls on the Wave Around Hotline.
Hi, Brandon. It's Matt at Camper News Net. Absolutely. especially with the Cup race and the Xfinity race towards the end tonight and even yesterday afternoon. It is just racing. And, you know, I really do feel bad for Denny Hamlin, for Ross Chastain, I believe it was, if I remember correctly, in the Xfinity race yesterday, and Denny, and of course Martin Truex, and also Chase Elliott tonight. Absolutely so unfortunate. It is just racing, but it was very exciting finish nonetheless. I absolutely loved it, and you know, this is. I'm really looking forward to what else is to come in the playoffs coming up, of course, with Richmond next weekend, and then, of course, Bristol after that. Short track racing, it's going to be, I think, even more exciting, and it's going to be tougher. But nonetheless, anyway, my lucky dog for this week is going to go out to the fans. Seeing the fans in the stands at Darlington tonight for the Southern 500, including the lap traffic intern, Daniel. Absolutely incredible to see the fans out there, able to see an exciting race and the Southern 500 tonight. I absolutely loved it. I'm hoping all the fans out there really, you know, who were able to attend tonight at Darlington enjoyed it, and it was great to see it for myself, the fans, especially in the stands on TV. Anyway, my lap down is going to go to in the Cup Series, of course, Martin Truex Jr. along with who was that? That's right, Chase Elliott for you know, the unfortunate. It's just racing, and I feel so bad for them that, you know, that just, you know, messed up the night. It's unfortunate to see, and also what happened in the Xfinity Series yesterday. That's also my lap down as well for this week. So, anyway, nonetheless, enjoy your week as always, Brandon, Lap Traffic Nation, and I'll talk to you next week for your 200th episode of the Lap Traffic Podcast. I'm looking forward to it, and I'll talk to you then. Take care, Brandon. Thank you so much. Bye.
Oh, Matt, thank you so much for calling in. Yes, I am looking forward to doing a couple live recordings next week with some of the consistent lapped traffic wave around hotline callers. Matt Camper, can't wait to talk to you next week for sure, along with Kathleen and Andrew Cansey. And those three are like the most consistent call-ins on a weekly basis. So I definitely want to have them a part of the 200th episode. So stay tuned next week for some live one-on-one calls for the Wave Around hotline. Very excited about that. A little mini listener call-in show, if you will, on the Wave Around hotline. Very excited about that. Matt, you nailed it with the fans, man. I can't disagree. It was so awesome to see the fans on the track for sure. And it's crazy. You never would have thought that we would have. It's crazy how much we just took for granted that fans were always going to be at the track, and definitely so excited for everyone that got to go and experience the Southern 500 live for sure. All right, let's get to the next call on the Wave Around hotline.
This is Kevin Hahn from Republic, Missouri, and I just wanted to call in on this nice Labor Day and kind of reflect on what happened last night really fast. My lap down goes to, well, actually I'll start with my lucky dog. It goes to Austin Dillon. Dare I say Austin Dillon might find a way into the Final Four. I know that sounds absolutely crazy, but I feel like he's been running pretty good lately. And I think he can sneak his way in there because the fourth person hasn't really been solidified. Maybe Martin Truex Jr., but that's besides the point. My lap down goes to this, between Martin Truex Jr. and Chase Elliott, niceness in NASCAR, because in NASCAR we need rivalries. And I feel like every time someone, besides the time Chase Elliott flipped off Kyle Busch, I feel like every time there's a big wreck like this or at the end of the race, we go into a, hey, that was my fault, don't worry about it, and niceness. I wish that Martin Truex would have called out Chase Elliott, and I wish Chase Elliott would have called out Martin Truex Jr. More, just to make the fans say, I can't wait till next weekend to watch the next race to see what happens. But that's all I got. Thanks for doing this. The podcast is awesome. I came on late in the year, started listening, got into the fantasy late, obviously, but I love the show. I love during the year, making picks and then watching your guys win or not win. It's more exciting with the fantasy aspect, and love the show. Looking forward to hearing what you had to say about this week. Thanks. Bye.
Oh, Kevin, man, thanks for calling in. I really appreciate that. Man, Austin Dillon, Final Four. Hey, man, that's a stretch, I think. I know you two think so, too. I definitely think a Chevy's getting it in. A Chevy has to get in, and it's got to be Chase Elliott. I think Chase Elliott definitely gets into the Final Four because Hendrick just isn't going to let that not happen. I really do believe Chase Elliott gets in there. And man, I tell you, I love what you say about, Truex calling Chase out, Chase calling Truex out, to create that build. I love storylines. I'm a wrestling fan, right? So you always look forward to the next week's Monday Night Raw. How are they going to continue the build and all that kind of stuff? And man, you look at in the playoffs a few years ago with Kenseth and Logano, man, like you just get hyped up for that stuff. And I absolutely love it. I get that that's, maybe cheesy to some, whatever, but man, it creates great talking points and content for the podcast. So I absolutely love it. And I am with you there 100%. Thanks for calling in and keep calling in, man. I appreciate it. All right, let's get to the next call on the Wave Around Hotline.
Hey, Brandon, it's Kathleen at KHI Fan. First of all, yay, we had trucks at Darlington. It was so exciting to see them back, and I hope that there's a future for them again there. I think we saw 3 good races, and I don't think anybody saw any of those finishes coming. That's why you don't leave a race early. And with Brandon Jones and Harvick's wins, it just goes to show that you've really got to put yourself in the best possible position to capitalize on someone else's misfortune. Someone's going to make a mistake, and you've got to make sure that you're there to take advantage of that. As a very, very, very long time Johnny Sauter fan, since he was racing short tracks in the Midwest in his ASA days, I've just been a fan since then, and I'm absolutely heartbroken for him. Just about every single week it's something, and it's not just a little something, it's catastrophic. I just have a gut feeling that we might see him go sooner rather than later, and it wouldn't surprise me if this were his last year. He's been getting in more late model races lately, and I think he'd be perfectly happy just going back to do those. So it would make me sad, but how much can you take? My lap down this week is going to go to the 3 team for having their shoes on backwards, and it being noticed, I guess, right before they took the green, and then they had to go back and drop to the back after, taking care of that and changing those tires and having to start the race at the back. So that really sucked for them. But on the other hand, my lucky dog is also going to go to the 3 team for overcoming and getting themselves to a P2 finish. I think the length of the race really benefited them, but still, I think that was a great job. And I really liked their throwback scheme. I thought it looked pretty sharp. Anywho, that's all I got for now. Talk to you later. Bye.
Oh, Kathleen, thank you for calling in. I can't wait to talk to you next week live for a conversation. We're going to have some fun next week. And man, Johnny Sauter. Well, I mean, it's just like you said, it's catastrophic week after week. And I hope he comes back at least one more year, because that is just no way to go out. So I definitely hope Johnny Sauter gets the proper send off he deserves in the Truck Series when he decides to call it quits. That's for sure. All right. Got one more call for you. You know who it is. It's the voice of the Wave Around Hotline.
What's going on, live Traffic Nation, voice for the Wave Around Hotline at Racing Kansas. The 20%, and boy, do I have a lot to say about this one. Like a cheap stripper, that one fell into Kevin Harvick's lap right there. Anyone who listens to Door Bumper Clear has probably heard Spotter Brett say that you literally have to race like a butthole to win these races. And that's exactly what Martin Truex did. I guess he thought he was going to make the corner that way, which clearly he didn't, and screwed himself and the 9 out of a good finish. They both finished with the rest of the buttholes. Part of me wants to be really pissed off with old MTJ, and part of me is. And another part of me is saying, well, if you could actually, faster cars could pass slower cars, then you wouldn't be as bad. You wouldn't expect a dumb move like that. But that's NASCAR racing in 2020 with, cartoon-like spoilers and engines that have no power to them. So that's kind of what we expect. So, as per usual, we see a pretty subpar race at an intermediate track, which is what we saw because, let's be honest, the race pretty much sucked up until the very end when, the package, or whatever. Lucky dog of the race has got to be actually Austin Dillon. That's not a team you expect to advance to the round of 12, but a second-place finish is going to go a really long way in helping him. So good for that team, I guess. Lap down is very obvious this week, and it's not my rant that I just went on in the soapbox. So I'm off the soapbox till next time. It's got to be Ryan Blaney. I mean, that 10-point penalty is going to really, really hurt him. That team did not run well at all tonight, and he doesn't run well at Richmond at all. And he hasn't had any luck at Bristol, so it's going to be a tough road ahead for the 12 teams. So we'll see how that's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. I doubt we'll really see any retribution, but the 9 and 19 probably won't be racing each other as nice moving forward. So hopefully we see a better race at Richmond, which I expect because there's going to be basically no spoiler on the car. But that's neither here nor there. Have a good weekend.
Mr. Andrew Cancia, did you all right? I need to go to just recap what Cancian said. Kevin Harvick's win was like a cheap stripper falling in your lap. Wow, I love that. That's hysterical. That's fantastic. That's good stuff, right? You can't write that stuff. That's great. And all I'm going to say is this. I cannot wait for our phone call next week because you and I are going to have some fun next week. All right. That is going to do it for this week's Lucky Dog and Lap Down picks. Oh, you guys came strong this week. Absolutely love it. And cannot wait for next week. All right, it's time to close this thing out with a little lap traffic fantasy. Just because of the quick turnaround with a Thursday night truck race, make sure if you are in the lap traffic playoffs, get your picks in before the drop of the green flag on Thursday night. There are just 2 races to go before we lose 4. We got 2 short tracks, Richmond and Bristol, and we got 4 races this week. Recap of the league, only 2 race winners picked all weekend. Studwell and Robert Riggs, who you're going to hear from in just a minute, had Harvick. Weekly high was Robert Riggs with 137 points with his picks of Harvick, Cindric, and Hill. And we've got a new leader. Yes, Robert Riggs took advantage of a couple playoff points and a great week this week. He is currently in first with 137. In second is Chad Robb with 135. In third is Brian Hall with 133, along with Matt Crowd with 133. In fourth is 130 with Matt Camper. Kent Dolphy in fifth with 128. Eric Rolls in sixth with 127. Crystal Smoke and Greg White are tied in seventh with 122, along with Joe Hewson. Eighth is Jess Rose with 119. David James in ninth, 117. Aaron Studwell, Joel Nolf, Andrew Cancian, and Richard Cravens are all outside looking in right now. 1 race in, 2 races to go. Can't wait to see how things shape up for the lap traffic fantasy playoffs. Let's get to this week's caller. It is Robert Riggs. All right, Lap Traffic Nation, joining me on the line, he is the current leader of the Lap Traffic Fantasy Playoffs. I'm so excited. Mr. Robert Riggs, sir, good evening. How are you, man?
I'm doing good over here, work down in South America and Suriname.
That's crazy, man.
Dealing for black gold.
Did you just say you're dealing for black gold? I love it.
That's right.
That's fantastic, man. So, how long are you out there?
Right now with the coronavirus, it's putting a little damper on us, so we're working a 6-week on, 6-week off schedule.
That's crazy.
And we're having to quarantine for a week before we come to work, so Put a little bit more damper on our family, but generally it's a 4 week on, 4 week off rotation, and goes by pretty quick.
That's crazy. So when you quarantine, like, can you even be around family, or do you literally have to self-isolate for that week?
We are literally in a hotel, in a room, cannot leave. Food is brought to you and everything. You stay in a little room, and that's it. And after your week is done and you've been tested, we'll get on a plane and fly over and then straight to the rig.
Wow, man, that is some dedication, man. That's crazy. That is crazy.
That's correct.
So, all right, so you haven't been able to catch up with much racing, but damn, you did pretty good this week with your picks. Are you ready to make it 2 in a row?
Yes, sir. I hope so. I've just barely been able to get my picks in. I haven't been watching much racing, and I'm ready to get back home so I can catch up.
Absolutely. All right, well, let's get to some picks for Richmond. Lap Traffic Fantasy players, we are headed to Richmond for some Saturday night short track racing. Trends, I got trends for you, and the trends say it has been the Toyota show at Richmond, having won 4 in a row and 7 of the last 9 races at Richmond. Martin Truex Jr. picked up the last 2 wins. Kyle Busch picked up the 2 wins right before that. Truex dominated this weekend at Darlington and fell short. He'll be looking for redemption this weekend and might be a safe pick. Kyle Busch still looking for that first win of 2020. He's got 13 wins at Richmond between the Xfinity and Cup Series. He, too, could be a safe pick this weekend. But if you're on top of the Lap Traffic Fantasy board, maybe you save these guys until later in the playoffs. But if you're at the bottom and need to secure yourself into the round of 12, maybe you pull the trigger early. Who takes home the checkers? Who advances to the next round? We'll find out this weekend. But first, it is time for our picks. Rob, we'll start with you. It's the first time the trucks are racing at Richmond in a very long time. Who is your pick for the Truck Series?
I'm going to run with Austin Hill.
Austin Hill. I love that. I am going with veteran Matt Crafton. I think he picks up another win before things are said and done. We'll go over to the Xfinity Series, where we've got 2 Xfinity races this weekend, a Friday night and a Saturday afternoon race. Who's your take for the first Xfinity race, sir?
First race will be Cindric.
Austin Cindric, good pick there. I'm going to go with Ross Chastain. Maybe he gets a little redemption. And how about the second Xfinity race, Rob?
I'm going to go with Briscoe for the second race.
Briscoe for the second. I am going to go with Justin Haley. I think Colleague Racing racks up another win before the regular season wraps up there. And how about the Cup race at Richmond, sir? Who do you got?
I think I'm going with the chalk pick this week to be Truex.
Martin Truex Jr. I'm going to go with Chase Elliott just for shits and giggles and see what happens there. Oh, man, I love it. Rob, thank you so much for calling in. Good luck the rest of the playoffs, and maybe we'll talk to you soon, man.
Man, appreciate you.
Yep, take care. Stay safe. Oh, Lap Traffic Nation, that is going to do it for episode 199 of the Lap Traffic Podcast. Oh, this was so much fun. What a build for next week's episode 200. Make sure you check out the website, thelaptrafficpodcast.com. Like on Facebook, The Lap Traffic Podcast. Follow on Twitter and Instagram at LapTrafficPC. Huge thanks to Jeff Gluck, Dan Ryan, Aaron Studwell, and Robert Riggs for calling into the show. Next week, all I'm going to tell you, there are some huge surprises lined up next week. You don't even want to know. You're just going to have to tune in. Don't get caught chasing the lucky dog. Make sure you tune in each and every week to the Lap Traffic Podcast. See ya!